Hi, I'm Father Michael Orsi. I am your host for Action for Life Television, that good news program which brings you the big G for the gospel of Jesus Christ, and the little g, all the good things that people do to put that gospel of life into action. Ladies and gentlemen, I guess one of the greatest problems we have in our society today is that people have little respect for the human body. Now, human body is made by Almighty God. Number one. Number two, the human body is going to be resurrected on the last day. Yet, we have people who use their bodies in a very improper way and, unfortunately, in a very immoral way. So they do things physically to hurt themselves, spiritually to hurt themselves, and they ignore all of those teachings of Scripture which tell us that the human body is sacred and must be used in a proper way and cared for in a proper way. Now, once upon a time, you will recall, we had a great pope. His name was John Paul II. And John Paul II, I suppose was more toward the end of his reign. He reigned 26 years, so it was, he had a good amount of time. He developed what was called a theology of the body, and he spoke during his weekly audiences about the sacredness of the human body and how the body is integral to who we are as human beings. A lot of times people think, I have a soul, and it's only the soul that matters, and when the body dies, you don't need the body anymore. That's not true. The body is the vehicle that God gives us to help us towards salvation. That's why Jesus died in the human body. Okay? Because we're going to be just like him. If we are faithful to him, our body, like the body of Jesus, will share in the resurrection. Now, we need some help in this area because, as I said, the world is confused. And so much so that in our society today, people are actually saying that practically anything goes, use the human body any way you want, love is love, or if you're not happy with the body that God gave you, well, you can just decide to get some surgery and some hormones, and you have a new body with a new identity. All right, now, what I did today, went out and we found somebody who is going to speak to us about the theology of the body, and this is Lindsay Caron. And Lindsay is someone who took action. This is Action for Life, gang, Action for Life. And her and her friends got together and they put together a parent school for theology of the body. Okay, now, Lindsay, I want you to explain to us, what is a parent school? Homeschool?
The good question. That is a key question that people have. So it's a metaphorical school. We use that term just to explain that parents are gathering together in thought and mind and action to teach their children. So it's parents all over the country, and they basically buy our magazines to work with their children independently. And then we also help them form community with other parents who are like-minded in their own local community. So we exist just to help them teach their kids, but they can be homeschoolers, they can be Catholic school families, public school families, anybody.
Okay. Is this online? So it's an online school.
Yeah. So our website is tobparentschool.org. And then when people go to that website, what they can find mostly is the ability to order the magazines that we've created for them to do in their home with their child. And then they can also contact us. Well, we have a page called Community. And so they can scan that page and see if there is already a group of like-minded parents meeting in their local area. We do have some in some of the bigger cities already. And then if there's not a local community meeting, they can contact us and we can help them get set up so that when they order their materials and they work with their kids, they're not doing it alone. They can start to gather their friends and other like-minded people around as a support system.
Okay. Can you tell us what moved you to do what you're doing?
Well, I live in Portland, Oregon. So that may be enough to tell people what moved me. And I started it in 2020. That may be another, piece of information where people go, oh, okay, I get it. But, I think that sometimes the worst of the worst is where good things come from, because we really see how bad it can be and where it's going for the rest of the country. So I think Portland kind of led the way in 2020 and before that in showing the rest of the country, like, hey, if you follow this path, this is where you're going to end up politically and in the entire environment around here. So it was just very specifically, it was the drag shows that were starting up around here for preschoolers. And so, I had seen a number of articles about them, praising them. We have a particular drag artist out here in Portland who is...
I'm sorry for laughing. I mean, a drag show.
Yeah, for children.
This is... I'm sorry, I can't use these words on television. Continue.
Okay, well, so I'm a big fan of research, and because it was COVID, I didn't have to go in person. I was able to go to one of these shows online and not have to bring my children, which I never would have done. But it made it easy for me to attend and just see for myself with my own eyes what was going on. And it was as bad as it seemed. And it was like, okay, something has to happen. We have to have the counter information for children, because this is what's being shoved in their faces at the time in our public libraries and now in some schools. So it just became very obvious, being surrounded by everything that was going on in Portland. It was like, this is a sign of where the rest of the country's going.
Folks,
so
I just have to say, it behooves me how anyone, school, individual, society, town, can think that a drag show has any social value or is in some way important for children to see. Beyond me, okay? For the most part, I think that you understand that Father O knows almost everything, but this one is beyond me. Okay, now, tell us about, so then you say, hey, look, we've got to do something. Portland is a moral mess, the drag shows, the kids, they're in schools and getting all this evil thrown at them. Mm-hmm. You say, well, what am I going to do about it? So you say, well, I remember John Paul II. Is that what happened? What happened?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what happened. I remember being introduced to Theology of the Body about 10 years ago in my parish in California at the time, when it was really, people were just showing Christopher West DVDs in parishes. It wasn't any bigger than that. And I remember just feeling the sense of gift that came from Theology of the Body. So the invitation to go to the parish night felt like a gift. It wasn't like a different parish event. There was something very, very special about it. And I felt the same way after I attended some sessions. And then it was kind of on the back shelf for me. I moved on. We moved to Portland. We had a family, but that's what came to me. You're right. I remember that was a teaching. I wonder if and so my next thought was, I wonder if there's something about that for children. So I Googled it. And what I found was that there is school curriculum, but there is not yet parent guides or things that parents can do very easily, quickly in their home without even knowing the theology of the body themselves, because that's going to be key. They need to feel that they don't need to know the theology in order to tackle it with their kids.
Okay, so, now, a lot of people, maybe they've heard the term, some Catholics heard the term, but we have a lot of people watching us that have never heard the term. They're Catholic. A lot of folks in our audience are not Catholic. They're Christians of other denominations. Could you tell us what theology of the body is?
Yeah, well, and you touched on it in your intro. In the end of his papacy, John Paul II, in the late 70s, early 80s, he gave 5 years worth of talks at the Vatican on the body and the soul. And it's now in a 630-page anthology. So it's a little dense to read, but it was for him a way to catechize the world. on the body. And some of the key tenets of the teaching are the body matters. It's not just a thing that we have to deal with to get our soul to heaven. We are equal part body and soul. Our body reveals our soul. So if something terrible is going on in our soul, our body often reveals that in some way. And likewise, when our soul is in a really great state, our body is going to reveal that as well. They're very, very interconnected. And so all of this, talk on, I'm just going to change my body or mutilate the body of a child. It's like, it is not just a body. It is very much connected to your soul. You are both. You are equal parts of both. And then there are so many things that stem from that, like the sanctity of life, from conception to natural death, and everything in between, really comes from that concept and that teaching.
Okay. You've broken down this tome that the late, great Pope wrote, and you make it understandable for the average person. So tell us, what happens when you begin to put this together in a way that parents can use this for their children? How do you approach it?
Mm-hmm. Well, thankfully, there were two organizations that came together just before we started our work in 2018. Rua Woods, which does Theology of the Body school curriculum, and the Cardinal Newman Society, which exists to help keep Catholic schools Catholic. So two of the lead thinkers from those organizations, they came together and they standardized the 630-page Theology of the Body. And those are now called the Christian Anthropology Standards. So they broke it down into 12 teaching standards, which is hugely helpful for someone like myself and my team. We did not have to try to pull out the main points from the 630
So you broke
pages.
it down into 12 sections?
They broke it down into these 12 themes.
Okay.
And then what we did is we slightly just massaged those themes to fit into the framework that we wanted to use. And so for us, we wanted to give parents 8 standards or 8 themes. So we combined a few that were very similar. And then we just kind of made the wording very, very, very accessible to the modern Catholic parent. So words like eschatological man, we don't use that term because the modern Catholic parent wouldn't understand, or, someone coming from a Christian tradition.
Say that term again. What's that term?
Eschatological man.
Eschatological man. Okay. This is eschatology, man heading toward his ultimate goal. Yes.
Yes. And was John Paul's language. We use the language of what you just said, man heading towards his ultimate goal. How are we living our life, body and soul, with our mindset on heaven, which is our ultimate goal? Okay,
so let's break it down now into the 8 sections that a parent would get from you, and then have the ability then to share it with their family.
Okay, so first they'll get all 8 mini magazine issues at the same time, and then they can pace themselves throughout the course of however much time they want to spend doing it. But let's say they do one a month. The first one that they would pull out the first month is just the concept that their child is a gift. So we break that gift concept down to just the very basic, especially in the middle and teen years. Kids have lost that concept completely. And so before we start to try to tell them that other lives are a gift, like a preborn life or a disabled life, we really want them to understand that their life is a gift and valued. Then we go into the standard of, standard 2 is the difference between human and animal experience. And sadly, we have to break that down for society right now, because we have people putting on squirrel tails and thinking that they identify as an animal. And it's only,
folks,
that's another one that you don't get.
A lot of people, they try to, first of all, make humans and animals, put them on the same plane. The animals have rights just like human beings have rights. And, we have these animal rights people that don't see the difference between, your dog and you. All right?
Yeah.
But, now we go a step further. We have people identifying as animals. See, God didn't make us dogs or cats. He made us
Right.
human beings in his image and in his likeness. You might like your dog a lot, and your dog might be a very nice dog, but your dog is not the same as you. And you have people now that they think they call themselves furries.
Mm-hmm.
I saw in the paper the other day there was a gathering of people who thought they were dogs, and they were all barking together. Folks, Father O can't make this stuff up. I mean, this is unbelievable. Continue.
It is true, and it shows us where we go as a society if we don't nip something in the bud when it starts to become ridiculous. And so your point earlier was, that we are these animal rights activists. So we're elevating the rights of an animal to that of a human. And the Catechism clearly says that we should not cause animals to suffer needlessly, but we should never elevate their needs above that of a human need. And so right there where we have it, I'll give an example. My Catholic school, where my children were last year, the big fundraiser that they did in kindergarten was so that the pets, I think it was dogs, in Hawaii could go on field trips.
Wow.
Because they were, yes.
The dogs had to go on field trips.
Yes, this was the fundraiser. So the dogs to go on field trips. And this is a person and a teacher that I really, really love dearly, but it just shows us, we follow suit and we end up thinking like everybody else after no time if we're not training ourselves to think differently or think as we should. And then, you have all the birthday parties for the dogs, and that's the biggest Pinterest trend this year.
I mean, first, I gotta say, does a dog know it's a dog's birthday? The dog knows it's a dog's birthday. I mean, you celebrate a birthday for a dog, but you buy the dog presents too, I guess, and then you have a birthday cake.
Well, yeah. So we start to treat animals in that way. Of course, it would make sense that, if I'm feeling off in my own world and my dog is my world, I might as well be a dog because that looks and feels like a great existence. So that's where the thinking has gone into this idea of furries. And it's really not, it all sounds ridiculous, like, oh, but it has to end soon. But really, does it? Or are we just going to go further along in this insanity, and I think that we will see that. I think that we will see things that we couldn't even fathom in another year becoming the new thing. Mm-hmm.
Okay, continue.
Okay.
Next point. I mean, folks, this is like unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Next point, but we have to lay that foundation for children because they're being told the opposite right now.
Yeah.
So we put animals where they belong, which is that they're, and the magazines they're really fun and they're beautiful and they're precious. And so it allows people to love animals for what they are meant for, companionship and work on the farm. And you can treasure your animal, but you can't elevate it to human level, period. Now, the next issue is the one that people are most interested to get. And it's the, issue number 3 is on gender. And it's very clear. God created male and female, and that is known at a cellular level in your body. So if you do all of these mutilation surgeries to change your body, your cells inside will never change from male to female or female to male. Never. Every cell in your body is sexed. So when you die in 100 years, somebody finds your hair, they know that you were male or female. Everything else is a show.
Action for Life is proud to sponsor a conversation with Father Orsi. Action for Life is an all-volunteer, pro-life, interfaith ministry that's focused on the sanctity of life from conception to natural death. In addition to sponsoring this TV program, Action for Life provides financial support and life assistance to any woman who wishes to carry her baby to term in anticipation of an adoption. Action for Life also provides financial assistance to a variety of pro-life organizations, including maternity homes, pregnancy resource centers, anti-human trafficking agencies, and sidewalk advocates, but to name a few. Please consider making a donation so that we can continue in the fight to save preborn babies. You can donate online at actionforlife.org. Thank you, and God bless.
Hey gang, I know a lot of you sometimes can't watch all of our episodes of Action for Life. However, we have a solution for that. All you have to do is go to YouTube and search for Action for Life Florida. And you can catch up on all the shows, and guess what? Extra added bonus, you get to hear my weekly homily. So, YouTube and you make a fine couple. See, folks, see, male, XY chromosome. Female, Y. That's simple. But we even have a Supreme Court justice who said she didn't take a course in biology, so she couldn't define a woman. Well, continue. I made my point, didn't I? I always make my point.
I know. Well, and again, we really just focus on not, this is insanity. We never even talk really about the culture and what we feel about the culture. We're just presenting the truth and the beauty of it. So that issue, and one more thing I'd like to say is that they come in different age groups. And so you never have to worry about something being not age appropriate. We will always word it in such a way that the parent is still in control of the messaging. So if you're 4 years old and you're getting the little tiny version of what we offer, you're going to just see that mom is a gift and dad is a gift, and that they bring different gifts to the family, and maybe mom nursed you and dad didn't. And you're going to see differences in that way. That's age appropriate. And always positive and always uplifting. And then once we've laid the foundation of humanity in these first issues, then we get into the soul a little bit more. So issues 4 and 5 are really about the connectivity of body and soul. The body reveals the soul. And in 5 specifically, we talk about the state of the soul being very important to care for through our bodies. And we talk about judgment and the place of right judgment, because that has gotten such a bad rap in culture. Who am I to judge? Or I would never judge.
Yeah. Who am I to judge? Sounds familiar.
So that the big I would never judge someone else's choice is huge. And we need to remind children that actually learning right judgment keeps us safe and on track. And so we talk about all the different kinds of judgment. Can we judge between vanilla and chocolate ice cream, and it doesn't have to have any kind of ethical value? It's just a judgment. We prefer this one over that one. That's one level of judgment. And then we go levels deeper and deeper to say, well, this is right and that's wrong. And it is okay, not only okay, but necessary that we learn how to identify what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah, folks, that's simple. Like, that's making a judgment. And, we're not judging anyone, but we're judging behavior. That's right. That's wrong. Okay. Yeah. So, we walk them through those different kinds of judgment and why it's okay and necessary to learn how to judge in the right atmosphere. Then it kind of comes back out. I say we, really, John Paul did this beautifully. So the themes then come back out of the body and soul, personal interconnectedness into, again, relational themes. And so in issues 1 to 3, we've laid the foundation of where we fall in society. In issues 4 and 5, we talk about our body and soul being able to balance that role that we have in society. And then in issues 6, 7, and 8, we talk about how do we then bring all of that in relation to other people. So now we're relating to other people. And in 6 and 7, we lay the groundwork for the reciprocity of the gift, particularly in marital union, but in other kinds of union as well. And we lay that with just the concept, John Paul did it himself, of service. So we talk about what is authentic love, to will the good of the other. How do we show love? We show it through acts of service, and we show it through receiving acts of service from someone else. We have to be graceful givers and receivers of gifts. So then when you get to issue 8, which is all about vocation, it makes perfect sense without ever having to say anything about sexual union at all until the older ages, that when you enter into a marriage, you are entering into a relationship that's based on giving and receiving. Then one day, when you're learning about sex, you are understanding that giving and receiving is a part of that. And it's not this, what society has told us, the whole thing, where we use people and get what we want from it. Well, this, folks, This sounds like a fantastic program. I know, as I said earlier, a lot of you are Christians of other denominations. That doesn't mean that you cannot use this program or try to understand the theology of the body. It applies to every Christian. It's based, anchored in the sacred scriptures. And, we have to do a lot of homeschooling these days, and it would really benefit families if parents could get a program like this. They can talk to one another about it, I guess, via the internet. They can get the magazines, share it with their families, and try to balance out some of the nonsense. And it's absolutely nonsense, but it's evil. It's evil, and evil is nonsensical. And it destroys our reason. And once we destroy our reason, it destroys the way we think and the way we act, the way we use our human bodies. And eventually the goal, and this is part of the goal of the evil one, this is Satan trying to destroy our souls and therefore deny us the face of God forever in heaven. Lindsay, I want to thank you so much for being with us. You're doing a great job. I hope a lot of people will, get in touch with you and buy into this great program. Hey, folks, you got to do it. The times are not getting any better. We need this stuff. So please get in touch with Lindsay and get your family involved in this program. Hey, Lindsay's for action, I'm for action, and I know you are too. We would like to thank our generous sponsors for their wonderful support. Thanks for watching. Please join us next time for Action for Life. I'm for action, and I hope you are too. I'm Father Michael Orsi. I am your host for Action for Life Television, that good news program which talks about the gospel of Jesus Christ, the big G, and the little g, all the good things that people are doing to put the gospel of life into action. So please join us for the next episode of Action for Life.